Okay, so I'm going to just be sharing my whole screen today, just because there'll be quite a few different documents that we'll be working with, and just more because I wanted to demonstrate everything to you. A lot of these things you just find out by doing it, so, but anyway. Okay, so this week, we're just really looking at screening and, that we did all of our searches. How did everyone go with their searches? You've done it?
I haven't. No, I've been sick.
Okay.
No, my other group members took the slack.
Okay.
And they did it.
Diana.
Yeah, and Leander did it, and Karen, I think, did some too.
Okay, cool.
So I did nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could talk about my issues, but
yeah.
Don't want to hear it.
Oh, okay.
They are plentiful.
How did your searches go, Diana?
Unmute myself. Excellent.
Oh, good. Yeah. Yeah, searching's always a bit of a weird one. Like you have to kind of, try different things, don't you? And some things work, some things don't. Even I thought I would do some practicing yesterday because I have to show you how to do it today. And even I redid all my Indigenous women entrepreneur searches that I did last year. And even in ProQuest, I was getting like 13,000 responses. And I'm like, or 13,000 records. So I was just like, no, I'm not even going to do ProQuest. So I just stayed with Scopus and Web of Science. But, yeah. All right, well, please let us know how your searching went and if you have any issues with it. But today we're just really going to focus on screening tips and using Competence for screening. I'll give you a bit of a, like a demonstration of how Competence works. And I've got different ones. I've got like a completed review to show you. It's kind of like a cake, we start off, here's the completed cooked cake at the end. And here is here's how we started off and those types of things. But yeah, I think really Competence is just something that you play with and just keep on using until you're comfortable with it. Also look at, maybe Excel. So I created, for my Indigenous Women's Entrepreneurs project, really didn't have a lot of articles. So I could actually just use Excel if I really wanted, but I will 100% use, or I have already used Competence anyway, because still, 100 or so articles is useful to screen through Competence. I guess the reason why I also use Excel is, so we started doing systematic literature reviews in 2016. So obviously Competence wasn't around at that point in time. So we just used to use Excel and we used to use the Publish and Perish website as well. Okay, so what is screening? And actually this is step 5, but after step 6. So basically screening is just really removing the rubbish. I know that sounds horrible, doesn't it? Any bad articles that we don't want to have. Or any irrelevant articles from your search that you've done. And we go through a number of different, things that we could screen out, different things. And we might even, we might not decide to do this. We can, really it's just about developing a protocol of what you want to include and what you want to exclude. But some possible screening could include, so just say that you have thousands of articles. Maybe you could screen based on impact factor. So perhaps you went, I'm only going to choose journals that are 1 or 2 above, or you could be screening on your ABDC ranking or quartile ranking as well. So just say I had a systematic literature review in the international business field, then I might go, I'm going to pick all the top journals in the IB field, and I know what those top articles or top journals are. You might know what your top journals are in your field. So, I'd go, A star, A, and then I might even decide to include our B level journals. But I might say, no, I don't want any C level journals in there. So, but it really just depends. I would suggest that you're screening out things if you've got lots of articles, but if you don't have so many articles, then perhaps, screening by quality, you're not really going to be able to do that. So for instance, in my Indigenous Women's Entrepreneurs topic, there's really only like about 80 or so articles. So there'd be no reason for me to screen by quality. And plus it seems to be in like quite diverse journals as well. So it's not just, but if I had a really tight international business, you know, kind of SLR, then I would be using all the IB journals. Okay, why might we screen things? We might screen articles that are not really on the topic. So again, I was doing that last night. I was looking at Indigenous women entrepreneurs, and there were topics where it's just mentioned Indigenous once, it's mentioned women and entrepreneurs, but not really on, you know, Indigenous women entrepreneurs. So yeah. Could be irrelevant topic. We might want to also exclude our grey literature. So does everyone know what grey literature is? So grey literature is any kind of government reports or policy documents, but there might be a reason why you want to include it. Or I think even Rieta, when we did ours, we did a bit of a kind of grey literature because that's what the funding body asked for, wasn't it? Like government reports. So. Okay, so now actually this one's a good point. Literature reviews or prior literature reviews and conceptual papers. My argument is that you actually exclude them. The reason being that it's sort of like, you know, when you're collecting these articles, there's sort of like your data source. So really they should only be studies of the prior area, shouldn't they? So either qualitative or quantitative studies, what have previous people found? I don't know, what are other people's viewpoints on this? So my colleague, Justin, who does a lot of systematic literature reviews, his argument that he does include it as long as it, you know, like is a part of your search strategy. So I don't know, Gianna, what do you think?
I definitely include them because most of the time the discussion is actually where the value is. Where they've done synthesis, they may have proposed a new conceptual model or way of understanding the literature, which for me would be relevant for the kind of scoping or narrative reviews I do.
Yeah, okay. Rieta?
Yeah, I think this is again depends on the stage of the topic. Like I think if it's a very emergent topic and there hasn't been a lot done, like Diana said, then, you know, for a scoping review, especially when there is a research agenda to propose or the value might be in the discussion, that can be useful. But if you've got a really established topic where there may be a lot of papers, then you might actually, your purpose might be to look about what is, you know, what's empirically been found, then you wouldn't. So I think it does depend on your questions and the stage of the topic that you're looking at, how you decide that kind of, you know, how you make that decision. But certainly if you've made that decision, you should be saying, you know, because it's a criteria, right, where you decide in or out, you know, and why are you making that decision?
Yeah, and so as long as you justify that and you've got a reason for why you might want to include. Conference papers, I would probably be going for exclusion of those. Because you probably won't be able to find them. They might not be published, especially if it's just an abstract. And also, you know, because they're not like, they don't have that quality peer review that perhaps a journal article might have. So, so I'd be going for exclude. Okay.
Sorry, Jane, to interrupt you again. I guess I'm sort of now sitting with this topic, the phygital one, which is like a very digital topic. And so in computer sciences, there's actually, you know, some of the papers are quite, they get published in books, the conference papers, and they're kind of leading the field. So this is where an area which I thought it might like to ask people, other people's advice on what do they think for this.
I'm sorry.
I think it's really discipline dependent. I think Retha raises a good point. I've done a couple and I've heeded what Jane said and done similar things, but then worked with other disciplines that conferences are held in high esteem. I think you nearly need to think about where you're trying to publish it first and what your parent discipline is. Maybe I'm just being scorned by reviewer 2 so many times, but I think with what we're suggesting, sometimes it's better to find what other systematic reviews have done in your discipline area and cite them as being the reasons for your inclusion and exclusion criteria.
Yep.
So saying things consistent with the review of XYZ, I'm only looking at journal articles, and anything that's not a journal article goes out.
Craig?
Yeah, it depends on the discipline because some conference papers are peer reviewed and they're held in quite high esteem. I know in management, there's the one in America, I can't remember the association, but
Academy of
that's actually to get into that, just to get a conference paper there published is pretty amazing, like Melissa did.
Yeah.
That's an emoji. There you go, one of those ones. But also, yeah, so the conference papers, yeah, it's discipline specific. I had a question though as well. If you've got a very narrow topic, and let's say that after the other resources that you pump out, you might get 40 results, or in your Indigenous entrepreneurs, say 80. Would you be more willing to increase the scope of your materials to say conference papers, knowing that you've got relatively few hits, or do you keep your I nearly said integrity, but you know what I mean, like keep your original method? Like, will you amend that method because you get such low results?
I might show you later anyway, because I did put everything into an Excel file, and I reckon there was probably about 2 or 3 conference papers out of that 80, and I haven't actually looked at them, whether they're relevant or irrelevant yet. But yeah, I might just go, no, I'm not going to include them, you know.
Okay.
But yeah, there just needs to be some, as Rory said, you know, there might be, like information systems or, you know, particular discipline that sees conference papers in esteem. So therefore you might want to include.
Sometimes if you're excluding them by the ones you can only access the full text of, then half your conference papers will disappear anyway.
And that's another point that I'll have later, is that so any articles you cannot find. So basically what you'll first do is screen by title and abstract, but later on you will be required to actually go and get all of those articles and download them. And you'll actually find that, you know, there might be 5 or 10 articles that you've gone to try and find, and you can't actually access them, whether it be, you know, like on our own university library's website. Sometimes you might go to ResearchGate and you can download it, or you can even ask the author, please send it to me. I mean, you could even ask email the author. It just depends on how much time you have.
Well, the full text turns out to not be in English. They've only converted the abstract in English.
Well, yeah, that's another thing. Yeah. So again, you can exclude because it's not in English, and you're not going to be analysing it in Chinese or speak Chinese. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's all, you know, it all kind of comes out in the wash about what you might use and what you might not use. Okay, then another thing would be books. And again, Rieta, you sort of mentioned maybe, you know, some of these digital articles might be in books, but yeah, if you've got a reason to include them, again, it might be difficult because, you know, a whole book is quite lengthy to read. And is it, you know, chapters? Is it book sections? Is it one section out of the book, or maybe, So I don't know, I'd be excluding books, but that's just me. Book chapters, there might be a reason why you might include it. So again, with Shabana's PhD, she wanted to include book chapters because it was such a small field. There was only 30 or 40 articles. Okay, so there's some reasons for why you might want to exclude and include. Okay, so doing this screening, there could be 2 ways that you can do this, but I'll probably argue for strongly suggest using Confidence over the Excel file, because that's sort of, that's what we used to do, and before Confidence came on board, but, you know, we now have Confidence available for us, so why not? But basically, if we're using an Excel file, you know, I suggest that for a small number of articles. So I'm just going to, basically what you'll be doing is you do your searches, you export via Excel. I made that, I was doing the searches last night, and sorry, I haven't done an SLR and uploaded to Confidence for about a year, so I actually forgot that it was a RISPA. So I've like done all my searches last night, did 10 of them, and I was like, yay, I'm ready to upload to Confidence. And it goes, no, we don't accept Excel files. I was like, oh crap, I told everyone to do Excel files. So anyway, so it's definitely RISC files for Confidence. So basically, yeah, if you're doing your Excel files, put all your files together, you remove the duplicates, you manually screen off the title and abstract, and what you would do is you'd get 2 or more people to do the screening. So yourself plus perhaps your colleague or your co-author that you're working for, and 2 is acceptable. I don't know if anyone's got any other suggestions, whether you think more than 2, or they use more than 2 for screening. Does Diana or Rory?
Yeah, when I am doing it at the moment, we do 2, but then the third person comes in to do the conflicts.
Yeah, okay, no worries. Okay, so again, using Excel, really what we were doing was, so I did one with Maria, my former PhD student, and we basically just, were colour highlighting anything that we were excluding, and that, so that just gave us an opportunity to exclude, to discuss at a later time. So if I just quickly show you an Excel sheet that I did last night. So basically this was the women's entrepreneurs. I just did 9 searches through Web of Science, and Craig, you can see here and see where it says C, that means conference paper. Yeah, journal and C, yeah, there you go. And so basically what I've done is I've done 9 searches, and I had them all in my nice little downloads things. And so I was being really, careful, calling them numbers, search 1, search 2, search 3, put them all together, and then ended up with, I don't know, I think there's something like 80 or so articles, and then, or 93, sorry. And then I haven't removed the duplicates, but all I need to do is, actually I need to highlight everything. So, and I just remove duplicates. Okay, sorry, I've got, okay, so there was 28 duplicates found and then 64 that remained. So then I could go and screen off that. But basically what it's given me, so because I downloaded the full records, and I've got the keywords there, and then I've also, I think that's the abstracts. Yeah, so then I can go and just screen off the abstracts if I want to do that through Excel. But yeah, I'd really only suggest that like for 10 or 15 articles, not for heaps. Okay, so that's one method. But the next method we could use is covenants. So basically covenants, as I mentioned, has been around, I don't know, I think the last 2 or 3 years, 3 or 4 years. I don't know when it first came on, but yeah, we all started using it. So upload your RIS file. Sorry, I'll delete Excel. So that's you. To covenants, again, so you go through different steps. So first of all, you're screening via the titles, the abstracts, and that will create like either, conflicts or no conflicts, depending on, what each of the reviewers have decided on. Then you'll also go through a process of, once you've finished screening the first one, you basically then go and get all the full texts, upload them, and then screen off full texts as well. Because the reason why you would be doing this is because you're basically, getting, now you're reading the full article and just really seeing whether, the full article is actually on the topic that you wanted. Okay, so before I do a bit of a demonstration of covenants, just wanted to go back to Prisma again. So we looked at Prisma last week. So in our first part of the Prisma diagram is just the identification of the papers. The second part is our screening. So basically we're screening for relevance on our abstracts, titles and abstracts, titles and keywords. And then we exclude, and then we move that to covenants. Okay, so let me go to covenants. So basically I've got quite a few different little covenants, projects in here, but it's all pretty easy and pretty kind of, intuitive. So if I wanted to start a new one, sorry, is this relevant for me to show you how to do that? Yeah, okay, so I might go, now I can't remember what this Cochrane review is, but I don't think we're doing Cochrane review. So, it's asking you. So I think this is when you get into like kind of medical type of reviews, and you can actually start to put like you can code, I think, through the Covenant software. Okay, so I'm going to call this Indigenous Women Entrepreneurs. I might call it another name because I've already got it twice. And I'm going to call it 3. And then what is the review type? I could call systematic review, scoping review, rapid review, whatever you've decided to do. So it's asking for economics, business. As I'm a University of Sunshine person, Sunshine Coast person, I can have unlimited reviews, but if I was just using my own personal account, I've got none left. So we obviously have a institutional membership for it. So here I am is just creating the review. And then I can then go and invite another reviewer. So it's all pretty simple. And then, I might put in Aretha. I don't remember what your email was. MS. Was it that?
Yeah, that's right.
At usc.edu.au. So that's all pretty simple. So then Rieta will get an invitation to do that. Now, I think, okay, review sessions. Okay, so I'm going to just do a little bit of importing. So last night I was doing my searches, downloaded them as the RIS file. So the RIS file is basically the EndNote file. And all I'm doing is just going import into screening. Then I'm going to then I'm going to mention what the source was. So basically this will go into your Prisma later on. So I think it's useful to do it. So earlier on, so remember how last week I talked about how you should save and record your searches. So last night when I was doing this, I was basically saving my searches, recording it. So my first search was Indigenous Women and Entrepreneurs. It was in topic in Web of Science. I didn't do any limits to search, and I had all date ranges, and I had 50 results. So basically then I called that search 1 and I saved my RIS file as that. So let's just go back to this. So then I'll go into choose my file, go to downloads, and I'll go and get search 1 after I realized that it shouldn't be Excel. And then I'm just pressing import. And then you'll see now it's imported 24. Don't know why that was different to around 50, but anyway, maybe there was something. Okay, so then I just kind of keep on doing that. And so I'll get my next search, and then I go and get search 2. Okay, so basically, because I've imported 2 of the searches, what you can now see is that there's 56 articles for me to screen. However, it's already automatically removed 21 duplicates. So basically, it's already identified. So because I've used different search terms, so if I go back to what my search results were or search terms were, basically, my first search was Indigenous Women Entrepreneurs, then it was Indigenous Gender Entrepreneurs, so slightly different. And then basically, it brought up different, like articles, but still the same ones. So I keep on doing that. And apologies if you're saying anything in the chat. Okay.
Nothing of substance, Jane. Just
okay, great.
me.
Nothing of substance. All right. Just yell out if you have anything of substance. Okay, so Jacqueline's saying it's easier to do it on a tablet. Okay, that's fine. All right, now, so that's one. I'm going to go back to my half-baked cake, which is this one. Yeah. So basically, okay, so and we'll have this whole cake at the end. So basically what I did is I ended up having 18 different searches last night. So I did all of my searches through Web of Science, then I did them all through Scopus. And you can see how I've got all different results for different, you know, like even the same search term in Scopus, I got 80, but in Web of Science, I only got 50. So that's the benefit of searching through, you know, different databases, is that you're going to pick up different articles that you might not have got if you've just used Web of Science. Hence why reviewer 2 should be saying, why didn't you use both Web of Science and Scopus and Progress, even though I couldn't get Progress to work for me. So, yeah. All right, so let's go into our half-baked cake. So basically I've uploaded, and this will show me the Prisma diagram right at the moment. And it's basically said to me that I've imported 261 studies for screening. 152 of them came from Scopus and 109 of them came from Web of Science. And the Competence website or software has identified that there are 130 different, duplicates, similar or same articles. All right, so let me go back to this. So then what I was doing was doing my screening. So I actually screened 28 of them so far. And basically actually I need to go back to something. I need to go to add criteria and go to highlights. So what I did last night is I actually added in all of the search terms that I want to have. So for instance, if I was doing Rietta's study on phygital, I might actually add the word phygital in there, but I've actually added in Indigenous, women, entrepreneurs, Aboriginal, gender, female, Maori. I even had Native American. Actually, that might even be one of the search terms that I probably should do, like Native American women entrepreneurs. Okay, so I've added these highlights. And so when I am searching, when I'm screening, confusing the terms. When I'm screening, the words that I've added as highlights have now come up as, I've got entrepreneur, I've got Indigenous, I've got gender, entrepreneurial, etc. So that basically is helping me decide whether, it's a quicker way for me to identify whether that study is actually relevant to me or not. So co-entrepreneurial ventures is a study of mixed gender founders, ICT companies in Ireland. Now it says 1,026 Indigenous ICT companies. Is this relevant? Is this study relevant to me? No, because it's actually referring to the Indigenous companies. So they're basically meaning national or local companies. They're not actually referring to Indigenous women, are they?
So would you put that in your report?
No, so then I
go. You did that and then you found this?
Yeah, so no. So I pressed no. Now, something I was struggling with, Rieta and Rory, so I'm just asking you to help me here. How do I do the exclusion criteria? Do you know?
You'd have to go back to a previous step.
Criteria.
Yes, that's it. You add the criteria.
Yep.
And then so on the, I'd suggest you look through, and this is where I look at papers for the reasons that they've included and excluded things.
Yep.
Previously, and you can pop it in there.
Yeah.
And then, sorry.
Do you mean in that bit there?
Yep. On your left-hand side and your right-hand side.
Okay.
What will happen is when you then do an exclusion, it will say, why are you excluding it? So that goes back to what Craig was doing or suggesting as like giving rationale.
Yep.
And again, a lesson learnt here from reviewer 2 for me.
Okay, cool. So Just so in that bit there, and then should that come up with the reason for exclusion when I'm screening?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Because I was wondering why I couldn't do that.
So you don't put not, so wouldn't you put not an Indigenous company?
Oh, no, not an Indigenous woman. Because I'm trying to exclude that.
I thought you were trying to exclude
No, but it's still not
Indigenous
the-
entities.
Yeah, no, because I
So
did.
the study wasn't about Indigenous women.
No.
The study. was
Oh,
about
right, I
Indigenous
got
women.
it. Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry. Forget it.
Okay. Yeah. So the next one, Indigenous women as entrepreneurs, that's clearly included in my study. So I put yes. And then I just kind of keep on doing that until I get to the end. And yes, so I have to do that for.
Why you do a yes and no?
Yeah, just
Constantly
yes
doing
or no.
That's
With the
awesome.
maybe, do you then revisit?
Yes. And then, I've invited Rieta to this study as well. So I don't know if you can log into that, Rieta. And then, maybe if you just, I guess, okay, so here we can see I've gone through 30 of them and I've given 1 vote. So far, there's been no conflicts because Rieta hasn't done her screening yet. For the purpose of.
Sorry, I was a bit slow this morning.
I was like, oh no, I'm not going to have time to get you to do this before we. So basically then, so once there is this like either maybe, because Rieta might have picked that as yes or no. But even I think maybe would be, sort of included for, discussion at a later point in time. Deanna?
Mine's a question, Jane.
Yep.
How do I set it up at this stage so that, let's say I've got a team of 4, who's going to be screening which ones, or
Yeah.
you know how you can do that in Rayon?
Okay, I don't use Rayon, so I don't know that. But like when I was setting up the reviewers last night, I was okay. Let me go into that. So it actually asks me, settings, puts the reviewers in. Oh, I can invite another reviewer.
Yeah, so I invited all of my people, but at the moment it looks like either, like how would you know which ones haven't been screened by 2 people? It looks like it only gives you a number.
It would automatically let you know, Deanna. So once you go through, it actually tells you how many have been screened once and how many have been screened twice. So what Jane was showing before, that's the beauty of this system, is it automates it all for you. So it tells you where you're at. So sorry, Jane, you won't be able to see it, Jane, because you haven't instigated that yet. Does that make sense? You got to put it into the system, have people doing it, and then it'll update accordingly.
But I
And so-
can't assign, let's say,
Yeah.
a quarter to each person. We just have to kind of say, okay, there's 400, take 100 each.
I don't know if it gets that fine grained of giving it to people. It's a matter of like, I'm looking at mine and I can see like how many people have done what, and it's really up to people to kind of self-regulate. If you go, okay, everyone's doing 400, you do 400, and there's like a tally, kind of like the gold medals of the Olympics, who's got the most gold medals. Renee and I used to use it as a challenge and send each other texts that, each other have to, fly the flag or who's winning. But what Jane's showing at the moment, too, you'll see that there's 30 with 1 vote. What will happen is that will update and say, this is how many has 2 votes. This is how many has 1 vote. And it'll show you where you're at.
Okay, so people but does that show it when you're looking at an individual paper?
Yes.
It does? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I've just
So
never
it
used
won't-
Providence, I've only used Rayon.
Yeah, it won't get you to do it 3 times, if that makes sense. If it only needs 2, it will take it out of the pool of consideration to be screened.
Yeah.
So where do I set it to only want 2 then?
Oh,
No, you go, Jane. Sorry. I'll show.
Well, Jacqueline's just put something up in the chat, actually. How can I allocate a set of studies to a specific reviewer for screening? So that might be useful for you.
There you go. Learn something new.
Thank
Yeah, I know.
you.
Yeah,
Oh,
even
spoiler, you can't.
no, you can't. All right. Yeah, look, I think any of the reviews that I've done through Confidence, I've just done all of them, you know, reviewed all of whatever's in there. So, so maybe that's just the limitation of this software then.
But to tell it that you only want 2 people to review it versus you want 3 people, is that in like the team setting?
Yeah, in the settings. So you can get 3 people or more to review, but you can't just allocate specific studies to. How annoying! You would think that they would fix that. Anyway, so there's the reviewers part. So invite another reviewer.
Yep, so I've invited all my people, but it looks like I can't figure out where it says limit each paper to just 2 reviews. It looks like it would accept 4.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah.
I thought I'd lost it or missed it.
No, and look, even yeah, like I sort of find this is a bit there's some limits to it. So, you know, I think that might be a real problem. Okay, so really what I'm just doing in Confidence is, you know, I just keep on going through this until I get to, you know, what's accepted, what's not accepted. So as I said, this is sort of like the half-baked cake. If I go back to the full cake, which is this one over here, just done last year. I actually added some more into it last night. But basically, what's happened here is that we've screened, you know, like 359 articles altogether by title and abstract. And then we got to our full text review and we ended up having 122 articles. And what I did do is I did actually, you know, we did upload all of those articles so download them, found them, uploaded them. And then we screened off full text and yeah, sort of just got to a point where, you know, that was our final review. Okay, so in the end, we had 60 studies to extract. And even this is where, you know, I don't think I'm using the full kind of capability of this software. But basically all I really wanted to do was get, you know, like what are the articles that I found? And there's this weird kind of, you know, I can create an extraction template in there. I can get a quality template. But these are just, you know, perhaps things that I can put into here, such as, you know, like data, then, you know, different findings, sample sizes. But I don't actually use this function because I then go and do it in Excel separately. But you could possibly do this and start playing around with this. However, what I wanted to show you, so in my full cake, let me go back to that. I basically have an export function up here. And again, you know, going back to our Prisma diagram, you know, had a total of 541 articles, screened the first ones, you know, 122 full text and then 60 studies included. And then I can actually go, so I can download that and that can go into my paper. But I can also export the studies that I've found. So I was just doing a bit of exporting last night. And basically what I went and did was I got the references. I can also get the inter-rater reliability. So basically when you're having 2 people, you're basically really just doing inter-rater reliability, aren't you? So that, download that file. Okay, so Jane and Rahel. Oh, interesting. Okay, anyway, I won't worry about that for now. Because all I really want is just the actual references that that are now going to be a part of my study. And so here we go. These are the, you know, like the full, or the articles that I've decided will be part of my literature review. And I've basically got the title, I've got the authors, I've got the abstract here. I've also got when it was published, the journal that it was published in, etc., etc. So, and there's like a kind of matching system. You know, you could perhaps, you know, with your articles that you've got, you could call them 210, you know, whatever number that they've been allocated. All right. So then, you know, I might sort it by year published, just because then that gives me, you know, like a chronological view on all of my articles. And so that's really my kind of, I guess, my little sort of database of articles that I'm now going to review. Okay, so remember when we looked a few weeks ago at those articles that had the demographics of the articles? So the first part of the, you know, so the authors presented, you know, this is the systematic literature review we're doing. It's then specified, you know, this is the review process or the protocol that we've done. And then it goes, oh, you know, the article started in 2001. And yeah, so, and then it tells you, so I can create like little, you know, pivot tables or, you know, graphs, you know, based on the year when everything was published from this. I can then also look at the different journals as well. So usually you would have what were the popular journals. So here I've got that information there. Then I can also start doing some sort of what we might call manual coding. And this is what we did with, you know, our workforce attraction development study with Rieta and Karen and some of our research assistants. So we had theories. What else do we have? Had sample size, had countries. What else? There was, maybe you could have industries, you know, methods used, whether it was cross-sectional or longitudinal. You'll probably find that most studies are cross-sectional. So then, you know, you'll find that, you know, you can make the suggestion that most studies should be longitudinal. So then I would then go, you know, maybe we go, 20 articles are allocated to my colleague Rohale, 20 allocated to Jane, and 20 allocated to my colleague Mina. And then we would go and get those 20 articles that we've already downloaded, and then we'd go and pick out, you know, what are the theories. So I might go, I don't know, some blah, blah theory. Then I might go the sample, 20 people, country, maybe it was Canada, industries that was mentioned. If it's not mentioned, it doesn't matter. Method, qualitative, cross-sectional, longitudinal. And I just keep on doing that for all of the articles that, that I've done. Okay, so that's, I guess, screening. Is there anything that I've missed for some of our experts, or anything else that you, I know Rory, Rieta, Diana, that you might have done that I didn't do?
Just to augment what you've suggested, Jane, sometimes we use a theoretical lens to actually code. So sometimes you might be critiquing the literature, saying it's missed something, and that's because of the theoretical view. So you have your tenets of your theory, and you can suggest how much they've been used or not used. But that's only very minor augmentation of what you've suggested. But there's been quite often get the PhD candidates to do that when they're doing systematic reviews, because they pick a theory and that's how they're going to look at it. Because that helps really identify their gap and how their theory hasn't been embraced.
Yes. Yeah. So if you're going, oh, I'm going to use assemblage as theory or something, then but no one else has done it, then you might go, oh yeah, that's not apparent in the literature. Okay. The other things that you could do here, and this kind of goes into what we'll do next week, is basically, you know, maybe you could do what were the major themes, and you know, you could either do like theme 1 or go theme 1, You could go theme 2, or even just has it, you know, like in one kind of color. Remember I talked about the antecedent, I love this one, antecedent, moderator, mediator and outcomes. So you could also have that, you know, if that's something that, but depending on how you're going to present the information. So again, you know, so really now we're getting to a point of coding our articles. So, you know, you actually have to then now go and read those articles. Or we can also do our thematic analysis through Leximancer or through NVivo. Okay, so that was pretty much, I think, you know, all I wanted to kind of say. Now, you know, time for you to practice. Get out your RIS files, create your project, upload to Covenants, decide on what your inclusion and exclusion criteria is. You know, it's basically your protocol. You decide what that is, you know, you just specify it. You appoint your reviewers and start screening, and then, yeah. So I guess over the week, you know, if you can, you know, upload your files to Covenants, appoint your reviewers, go through the process of excluding and including, you know, meet for any conflicts. So you have to do that twice because you've got, you know, the first load of screening and then you've got the full text screening. And as I've done, you know, download your articles and extract a file. I don't know how, you know, like whether you're actually, or you'll get time to do that within the week, but you know, that could be a good goal to have. Yeah. Okay, Rietta?
Yeah, sorry, Jane, I'm going to ask a student question now. Are these still the slides from last week? Did I miss it somewhere?
Oh, no, these slides, I did upload this slide last night as well. So it's in the Teams.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much it. Any questions? Craig's got a question.
Might be a dumb question, but
Questions are dumb.
finding all full text articles, is that something that we would use, for example? Because I seem to be a random literature reviewer. I've never
Okay.
done this systematic
Yeah.
before. It's
Okay.
quite, I suppose it's worked, but
Yeah.
without systems. So full text articles, you can use EndNote, can't you, to extract, my understanding, you can use EndNote to extract the citation, but also the attachment itself.
Yeah, you can, but you'd probably have to
It doesn't
go.
work with every single
Yeah.
database or every single article, but that's not a bad,
Yeah,
in
that
my
might,
experience, not a bad.
if you know how to
EndNote's
do
not
that
bad.
automatically,
Yeah,
go
it'll do it.
for it. Yeah. Typically I'd be just going into each, you know, like
Just going to
into
the database
going into
and
the
just
university.
downloading it and then uploading it into,
Yeah.
okay.
I don't have
Okay, no, that's cool. I don't know if anyone else has any tips for speeding up that process on bullet point number 5,
Yeah.
finding all full text articles.
Yeah, so I've said Uni Database, ResearchGate, Google Scholar. I guess anything that's open access. I guess that's the benefit of open access these days, is that people's articles. But yeah, you will find that you won't be able to find all articles. There will be some that are just missing and you would just then have to exclude them because you can't find them.
Right.
But you can always email the author.
Yeah, well,
They
they do
might
that.
respond.
They do that on ResearchGate when they
Yeah.
want something that's not open access. They get pinged
Yeah.
by people.
Yeah, so okay, so otherwise, yeah, that's pretty much it for today. So next week we're going to look at Leximancer and okay, oh yeah, so Jacqueline said she's requested 2 to 3 or full texts before from authors and received them. Yeah, so yeah, that's all right. And yes, so we'll do Leximancer, we'll do NVivo, and we'll just continue with that. And then that's pretty much it, you know, for a few weeks. I think like we probably won't meet like formally, but you guys can work in your own little groups and then we'll come back can't remember when it was. We'll come back and yeah, just sort of see how everyone's going and where everyone's up to, and maybe just give some tips for like, you know, how you might write your intro, how you might write discussion and future research.
Awesome.
Okay. So unless there's any other questions, I'll end. All right. See you next week. Okay, bye.